Okay, before we get to example 2, we're going to add an example. And just like the sum and difference formulas that we did before, where sometimes you moved from the left side to the right side of the formula, and sometimes you had the right side of the formula and you simplified it to the left side of the formula, you'll have to do the same thing with these double angle formulas. So it's a matter of recognizing what formula you have. And one of the most typical questions that I've seen on a final exam is simplify, or it might even say evaluate, which means you're going to have to use your unit circle to figure out what it's equal to. And right before spring break, we did these questions with pi over 12. Do you remember having to find two angles that added or subtracted to pi over 12 and then used your alpha plus beta formulas to make it big? And they were like 3-mark questions. To do a sine of pi over 12 would be a 3-mark question. Cos of pi over 12 would be a 3-mark question. So the fact that this one has sine of pi over 12 and cos of pi over 12 might make you think that it's a 6-mark question. Then you have to double it, so maybe they give you an extra mark for that. So you might think that this is a 7-mark question, and you get to it, and they have this on your exam, and off to the side it says it's only out of 2 marks. So it wouldn't be wrong to do alpha plus beta formulas and simplify it, but that'd be a lot of work. But Emma, you're going to say?
Sam, if you use the formula we just learned, it turns into sine of 2 pi over 12, which if you simplify is sine over 2 pi over 6.
So if we look at this, and she's saying if we think of those as both alphas, then what we really have here is 2 sine alpha cos alpha. And if we take that and say, well, that's the same as sine 2 alpha, and instead of alpha, I'll write the pi over 12, then I can simplify this expression, because this is 2 over 1. This just becomes sine of pi over 6, and that's on our unit circle. And is it 1/2 or root 3 over 2? 1/2. So you can see why that would be a 2-mark question, because doing it that way is not nearly as long-winded as doing it the other way. So this is another type of example where we use these double angle identities. So here is example 2. And it's more simplifying ones. The reason I did that first one is because it had the pi over 12, and the pi over 12 might tempt you into using a longer formula. Okay? These examples in example 2 are actually using pi plate values. And so for that reason, I don't necessarily think that it's any better to use the formulas to change them, but we'll do it both ways. We'll use our pi plate to figure it out, because you could evaluate this right away, or you could change it using the formula and evaluate it afterwards. And the question does say, write it as a single trig ratio, then evaluate. So I'll do that first, but then I'll look at what would it look like if you just did this question 3 weeks ago when you just finished your pi plate. You could have done it then as well. So here's A. Split it down here. Cos squared minus sine squared. Think of this as alpha. Does that match up with one of our formulas? Of course, it's in this chapter, so it better. And it matches up with cos of 2 alpha, which, when you simplify that, becomes cos of pi over 2. And cos of pi over 2 from your pi plate or from the cos graph is 0. If you were doing it before by just plugging things in using your unit circle, cos of pi over 4 is root 2 over 2, and that would be squared, minus sine of pi over 4 is root 2 over 2, and that would be squared. Now you probably can see that it's equal to 0 already. If you did square this, root 2 times root 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 over 4 minus 2 over 4 is still 0. So because you can do it this way, you would say, well, why would I bother using the formula if I could figure it out before? And that's why we did this example before, because pi over 12, we could evaluate it, but it would be a long process. And this is a lot quicker. Same thing with b. I'm going to let you try b on your own right now. You could plug it into the formula and simplify it, and that will be probably quicker. And you can also try it just by using your pi plate values to begin with. The questions you can do for this one are numbers 4, 5, and 6.